Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group. And today, on our business side, we want to talk about some difficult subjects as it relates to the businesses that are operating in our community. Who you give your money to is who you give your power to. And today, our guest on that subject matter is Miss Catina Taylor. How are you doing, Miss Taylor?
I am fine. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on and have this conversation with you. You are absolutely right. Who we give our money to is who we give our power to. So I love that you said that. I hadn't thought of it in that way, but it makes absolute sense. Even the Bible speaks upon it, whether we believe the Bible cover to cover or not. But it says where your money is, where your treasure is, right? That's where you are. So we have to think about that in our community and really think critically about where we're spending our money, how we're spending our money.
Let's talk about the issue. How really I got you on the network. You had a post about a large company and how you felt their operation was towards the Black community. Uh, why don't you tell our audience, fill them in a little bit about what that situation is and how you see that overall?
Yeah, so I live in the 5th District of Kansas City, Missouri, 5th Council District. I'm a lifelong resident of the 5th Council District in Kansas City, and I'm an empty nester. It's just me. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always on the go. So not far from me is a Black-owned restaurant, Gates Barbecue. Love them, go to them often. But there are some other restaurants right in that area. So you have McDonald's, you have Taco Bell, you used to have Burger King. There's a Chinese restaurant. So for me, that little area when I want to stop and grab something to eat, I'm gonna stop through and patronize businesses in my community because they employ people that look like me. I want to support those businesses. We need those businesses in our community. And McDonald's in particular is one that has just been troublesome for quite some time and it's progressively getting worse. And so I made a post with a photo of that particular location on Emanuel Cleaver Boulevard. And I just started asking people in the community if their experience was the same as mine. And believe it or not, I have tons of responses of people saying yes, they've had similar or worse experiences at that particular McDonald's establishment. And so, when I get to a point where I'm posting something on social media and opening up the conversation to the community, it's because I've attempted as a customer, a consumer, a concerned citizen to talk to management, to talk to owners, to talk to the employees themselves, to see if we can work together to rectify what is happening in their particular establishment. And I've done those things with this particular location. And it's just gotten to a point, like I said, that it's progressively getting worse. And I thought, okay, then the community needs to make a decision. And yes, while it is an establishment that offers us a convenience, nearby food, whether, while it's an establishment that hires people that look like me, young people, old people, and everybody in between, but the service that they are offering, the experience that they are offering is so deplorable that what they offer is not outweighing what they don't, if that makes sense.
It may be.
So now the question is, do we allow them to continue to exist in our community
Do you want
and profit?
to? Excuse me. Let me butt in for a minute. Why don't you be more specific so that our audience will know specifically what you're talking about? Because you get a certain experience, as I've talked off camera to you, when you go to any McDonald's in the country. And how is this McDonald's really different than the experience that you experience normally from the franchise?
Yeah. So this particular one is and another one nearby me as well. I can go from my house, I can go to one or the other. So Meyer and Troost or Emanuel Cleaver. I'll get there equal distance for the most part. They're owned by the same owners. Most of the horrific
Are they
experiences,
black owners?
they are not black owners. They are white owners, European owners, however you want to say it. They are not people of color. And the woman that initially owned it is from rural Missouri. And this, she stated to me directly that this is the first time she's owned and operated establishments in the urban core. She has since allowed her sons to run those restaurants. I think because maybe she became overwhelmed. I don't know if she wanted to retire, but now her sons are owner operators of those in her stead. That being said, you can show up and they will close early. They may leave you sitting in their drive through for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Um, Not saying how may I help you, not saying they're closed or open, not saying they're having any type of technical troubles. They just leave you. You have a young man that's very well known in our community in a wheelchair. He went in, he said he sat there about 15 minutes in the inside. No one ever acknowledged him or took his order. They have lied on certain occasions and told people they were out of food because they just didn't want to work. I was just, my most recent experience, my personal experience is I sat at the drive-through to order. No one ever took an order. I drove around to the window. The guy wouldn't even open the window. He was like talking to me through the window. We're only taking 4 orders at a time. I'm like, and why is that? We're understaffed. I know being understaffed is a real thing, but there were tons of people working at that time. Got to the second window, the young lady, just as pleasant as she wanted to be, thought she was great to give me an order. I was like, nope, I haven't ordered yet. The young manager asked me, after being inconvenienced, sitting and waiting, to drive all the way back around again so that I wouldn't mess up his system because the other cars behind me may have already ordered. And when I told him, well, no, I'm not going to do that, then he was upset with me because I wouldn't further inconvenience myself. So it's just consistent things that are happening, not as clean as it used to be. You know, I mean, just so many different things. There's been a fight amongst the staff in front of customers. They've locked doors where you couldn't come in during the day. I mean, so you name it, it's just progressively, like I said, getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm just like, you know, I reached out to some folks that do workforce development. I was like, you know, we had a really good summer program where we took teenagers from various schools all across the city, the metro, even out in Johnson County. They were trained really well. They worked in corporate businesses. I mean, they were amazing young people. And I thought, could we expand that and utilize some of those youth to come in and train? Because you know, people use McDonald's and go, you don't want to grow up and work at McDonald's. Well, I remember I worked at McDonald's, but the man that was my regional manager at the time ended up owning 13 stores. So you can start at the bottom, but you can become a franchise owner and become a millionaire. So McDonald's ain't all bad. It's just how you think about it, right? And so I say that to say, like, if we could bring some of those young people in, I was like, maybe that'll start shifting the culture and environment of these particular stores. We're putting them in a position, if they want to explore entrepreneurship later, then they can see it from a different perspective. I learned customer service working in fast food. I started working at 15. And so that's why I serve my clients as an entrepreneur today really well. So there's something to be learned in these establishments, but if the owners are unwilling to teach it, if they're unwilling to hold their staff accountable because their fear of being understaffed or not being able to replace those individuals, then those individuals actually are setting you up. They're running your business for you and not in a good way. So as a community member, I refuse to spend my money at those stores. And I'm thinking that we're going to have another conversation perhaps with these owners or we're gonna have to shut it down. It cannot exist in our community. They have to make a commitment to us if they still want our money.
I'm all for that. That's what the Kansas City Business Association is about. We have a lot of businesses in our community that are serving the school board, the school district, serving milk, serving all different types of things. What are they giving back to the community?
Right.
And what programs are they developing to create opportunities for our youth that are coming out of high school? And McDonald's, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, all of them have been an integral part of most high school kids' life, have worked
Yeah.
fast food. And so they look, those are some of your first business contacts. I know my youngest, Shayana. I'm like, you need to work with our company. No, that I'm going to McDonald's. I'm like, over Cascade McDonald's. Hold it. Like you said, you work there. Most of the kids, they like, my friend works there. And
Yeah.
so the experience that you see that these kids get in those places are really lessons, if they're not taught right, damage kids on what work is about, what going to the next stage from teenager to young adult, what responsibility is like, and really when they're acting in the way that we talked about off screen, you're really disgracing your community in more ways than one.
Yeah, I think like you said, where your dollars are is your power. And so some people might be like, but we need this. And when I tell you there's no shortage of customers. Like they always have a line, people are always stopping there. It's on a main thoroughfare. So I get it. It's convenient. But at some point we have to make a sacrifice of our convenience for our dignity, right? And so I couldn't stay silent. I don't want to stay silent anymore. And you know what? I talked to the young man who's a manager. He worked his little way up, but he's told me, he said, I haven't gotten any training. I really don't know what I'm doing here. Sometimes my emotions get the best of me and I do, you know, act unkind to customers because I'm frustrated with employees and all the things. And, I think he would be a great manager down the road if he had the support and the training. So he's been tasked to do a job that just doesn't work well. Same with the location on Meyer and Troost. They brought a black woman in from another store to help them achieve some order. Um, I haven't seen any change. I'll say that. But so you know, I think we just have to call them to task. I want to work with them as partners. And sometimes if you're not used to a particular demographic as an owner, as a manager, or whatever, if you don't know how to communicate with those young people, maybe your age is an issue, maybe your gender is an issue, meaning, if I got predominantly male employees versus female, but me, I'm like, what kind of leader do you want to be? That's what the owner should be asking. How is it that I want my store to show up in this community so that I continue making money, that my doors can be open, that I can provide employment, that I can also work with my vendors that have to provide with buns and all those. We have a black bun supplier, Best Harvest Bakeries, I believe, is in KCK. They supply all the McDonald's buns, like they black owned. I want them to continue to have that client, but they can't and they shouldn't if they're not being respectful of the people whose money they're taking.
All right. So, is there another subject that we talked about with some workshops or something that you were doing? Let's talk about that. Give our community the 411 on that.
In terms of, are you talking about the education piece or? Yeah, so the other piece, that the work that I do, I have a nonprofit, it's called Dreams KC. And so I just developed, and I had been on my mind to develop it for quite some time, but COVID put us inside long enough that we were able to work on some things. And so, if we look at the data for Kansas City specifically, but it's the same across the nation, um, African American kids, Hispanic kids in our public education systems, and you heard me say systems with an S. So whether they're in charter schools, which are public schools, whether they're in district schools, whether they're in private schools, really, no matter where they show up, they are not conquering literacy. So I've developed a system to put that learning in the hands of families so that they can teach their own children. They're their first teachers, they're their best teachers. And you may ask, well, Katina, what gives you the thought that you can develop something and put it in the hands of parents? Well, I've been teaching kids to read since 2000. I spent 15 years in the classroom teaching middle school, elementary school, and high school. I continue to tutor and all of that, but it's one of me. So there's no way that we can eradicate illiteracy in our community with one Katina, right? So I needed to put something in the hands of parents that didn't take them a lot of time. They could see quick wins and quick results, and to empower them with the tools to teach their children to read. Because what we're asking them to do is to teach their children to read, and we're not tooling them to do so. We put a lot of literature out, books for us, by us, featuring us, but they become dust collections at home because our kids, and in some cases, our adults can't read them. And we know that illiteracy impacts health outcomes, employment outcomes, incarceration outcomes, you name it. So I live by the mantra that literacy is liberation. The program is called Reading the Phonics Way, and it's getting us back to the basics. And what many people probably don't know is that we have about 4,000 colleges and universities across the country. Most of them have some type of education undergraduate program, but only 10% of those colleges and universities teach those that want to go into the classroom as teachers how to teach reading. Why are we funding them?
All right. I think that's a legitimate question. And what I'd like to talk about now is what we talked about off camera about you having your own show, your own weekly show to talk about these type issues. Because, as I said in the private conversations, you really don't have a chance to express on a consistent basis what's going on in your community. And Cascade Media, we're bringing on new, younger staff that think much different, not too much different from Mr. Nelson, but it's in touch with what's going on in 222. What's in touch, what's going on in all of our communities around the globe, and bringing this to the forefront so our community can somewhat know what's going on a daily, weekly, almost minute to minute, as many interviews as we put out uh, to make better decisions on who they vote for, where they spend their money, and on these key issues of education for our youth, because our youth is virtually our future. And you hear the politicians and all of them talk about that, but how much money are they really sinking into the reading programs and other programs such as that? And I'm gonna leave with this: that all of these mass shootings that have taken place at these schools, one audience, pay attention how politicians are. Our kids are dying, and these shootings have been going on for some time, and they haven't done anything about it. So, really,
and not only our kids are dying, our teachers, our teachers are dying too, right?
Yeah, but the point I'm making is you're looking at a situation and you're denying what's happening. The same politicians that are passing these laws could stop all of that, but money is trumping their fiduciary responsibility to you and to your kids. And this is bleeding over. You might see how does this connect with the McDonald's lack of leadership, lack of the people that are representing you allow these things to happen. That's not going to happen in Johnson County. That's
Right.
not going to happen in certain parts of Chicago or some of the busiest cities. It's not going to happen, and because in those neighborhoods, the PTA meetings, the community meetings, and all of these type meetings are full of residents that say, "Hey, we're paying taxes. You can't do business in our community." And
That's right.
we're the only community, basically, that uh, outsiders come in our community, suck all the resources, financial resources that we have, and we're not getting anything in return. And so
Yeah.
I would like to
Well,
welcome
anytime.
you.
Go
I would,
ahead. I was gonna
yeah,
say, go ahead.
and I'd like to welcome you to the staff to do your weekly thing on our network. And the floor is yours, Katrina.
Well, thank you so much. I am excited to even have the offer extended to join Cascade Media and have an opportunity to come on and talk about issues that impact our communities. Right. I am the board president currently of KKFI 91. Lord have mercy, 90.1 FM. I have been since April. So still getting my legs up under me. We're a working board, and that station ties into exactly the work that Cascade Media does as well, because our mission is centered around providing a voice and an opportunity for issues that impact our community in ways that commercial media doesn't do it. So we're aligned in that way. I take opportunity once a month to support our racial justice and equity initiative there, coming on the air, talking about issues over there. I welcome the opportunity to do it here as well, talk about those issues. And then I have another broadcast that I do via LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook once a week on Tuesdays with a group we call the Coalition. We talk about educational issues. So never have I ever thought of myself as a media person where I would have these opportunities. But anytime that I can utilize my voice, my intellect, to liberate our community, certainly educate our community on issues of importance and interest, and I welcome the opportunity. So I'm excited to see what we might be able to build out and what we can bring to the Kansas City and worldwide uh, communities, because the things that we face in Kansas City are not unique to Kansas City. They are happening in St. Louis, they're happening in Chicago, they're happening in places like Atlanta, they're happening in Mississippi right now. Yet, and I have not seen a Kansas City response to that. So I want to convene some folks to talk about how we can support those residents in Jackson, Mississippi, because Flint and Jackson can very well be Kansas City tomorrow. And so, we have to talk about how we gather resources and support communities, and then strategically think about how we prevent our communities that may not have been faced with some of those issues not to be faced with them moving forward. So if this is an opportunity to do that, to raise our voices, to educate ourselves, to galvanize, organize, mobilize, I'm excited and interested to do it.
Well, that's a mouthful. And what I would say is, in closing, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.
Absolutely.
Good night.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.